supposed to unmute that. All right, guys. Yeah, this is the what I know about your company hacking LinkedIn business processes. So, all right, if that's what you came here to see, you are in the right place. So, a little bit about me. My name is Danny Chrastil. I go by Disconnect as my handle. Now, I work for HP, Fortify On Demand, as a senior security consultant, but I tend to do just whatever they tell me to, which is fun things like capture the flag. I'm running the capture the flag event here. I like to write challenges and do research with that kind of stuff. I come from a background of web development, so I had a lot of experience programming, administering servers with like LAMP stacks, database administration, all of that. And I had this side interest of hacking and doing security stuff, and then I was like, wait, I could do this as my job? And I was like, okay, sweet. So I just ditched the web dev and just do a whole bunch of security stuff now, which is fun, but I do keep my focus on web because that's really where my passion is, where my background is, and so that's where I put a lot of my attention. So what we're going to be talking about here is reconnaissance, okay? So why recon? So who here does reconnaissance like in their day-to-day job? Okay, all right, yeah. So how many here are actual like pen testers or hackers? I like to kind of get an idea here. And then how many of you are more important people who are like managers and actually make decisions? Okay, good. Sweet. So we got an idea here. So reconnaissance, you know, why do recon? The problem is that reconnaissance sometimes is boring. Of those people who do reconnaissance, who likes it? Like who's like, yes, recon, 2 people. Okay, solid. Solid. Okay. Usually, I mean, the response we get is, we don't like recon. Recon, sometimes it's boring. You know, it's tedious. It's a lot of work. Sometimes you dump so much time and hours into getting information, and at the end of the day, you're like, I got like a top-level domain and some email addresses. You know, I didn't get much, and it's frustrating. And it's just this requirement that we have to fill. You know, but there's more to it. I mean, what we need to do is we make recon sexy, and that's, I mean, Angelina's going to help us with that. So. Recon, so it's so vital. So why do we do recon? We're basically gathering as much information as we can before we actually start whatever we're doing. And it doesn't have to just be pen testing. It could be pen testing. It could be, you know, doing a physical security assessment. It could be doing research for social engineering engagement. Or it could just be, you know, trying to get information about a company that you're trying to get more information about. But when we do this, it really makes our attacks so much more beneficial. We get so much more information out. We are more thorough if we do this recon in the first place. And so there's different types of business or of reconnaissance that we could do. We have like in business intelligence. So we're just trying to get information about this business, what they do, who they work with, things like that. You have network mapping. So we're going to try to get an idea of where their servers are, what are they connected to, what cities are these servers located in, do they own their own servers, are they using public servers, things like this. DNS recon, so you know we start with their TLD, and that's their top-level domain. Let's figure out what kind of information we can find. Do they have their own name servers that they're using for all of their sites? Do they have MX records pointing to certain mail servers? You know, we get more information. And then fingerprinting. So now that we have all these assets, let's figure out what they are. So maybe what kind of server stacks they're running on. Is it IIS? Is it Apache? Is it Solaris? You know, what kind of technology are they using? And this is all going to help us moving forward. But what I want to do, because sometimes that recon is so tedious and takes so much time. As a developer and a scripter, I love scripting. I've take my background as development and I apply it towards scripting. So I love making things faster with scripting. So I'm going to kind of go over a few resources I use. So ARIN, now this is like American Registry of Internet Numbers. It's basically owned IP addresses and being able to query them. So if I go look for Hewlett-Packard, because that's safe, and if the video doesn't freak out, which it is. I know. Oh man, it's going to jump all over the place. This is not fun. Let's go ahead and just stop it and see if we come back here. All right. So if we do search, and if it freaks out, I'm just going to keep going through with it. So ARIN, you could search for a company, say Hewlett-Packard, and it's going to come up with all these records. And if you click on those records, they have shared or networks that you could view. And when you look up the related networks for each organization, it's going to give you the owned IP address of that organization, of that record. And so HP has a ton of these. And and it's just not going to like me. So what if we try this? Sorry, guys. This is... All right, so I'm going to do this now. If we search for Hewlett-Packard, and we go to any of these organizations, we'll see they have related networks, and they give us these. Huh? We can't see that. Oh.
That's good.
Why?
When it goes wrong, it goes way wrong. Yeah, that's just.
It's just how it's gonna go. That's awesome.
That would be.
We will do this. All right, bear with me here. Can you guys see this? All right. Yeah, but it's probably going to do the same thing. All right, let's skip through it. So I'm going to have to go through this and improvise. So we have this resource of ARIN, and it gives us all of these. But the thing is, with Hewlett-Packard, we have hundreds of records. So in order to get that, I wrote a script that basically does this in automation. So you just put in the Hewlett-Packard domain and search for organizations, and it pulls all of this data, and you could have it all in a list. So now I could do one simple search, and I'll have hundreds of IP ranges that I could use for my Recon. And I'm going to skip some of these other examples that I had, and we'll move on. But the point is, you could use scripting to really automate a lot of the reconnaissance work that you're doing. Now, what we all came here for, so LinkedIn is an awesome resource for business intelligence. So people post so much information there, and there's so many great things that you could find. But the thing is, scraping LinkedIn directly violates their terms of service. So I have to say that before moving forward. If anybody is going to continue this or try it out at their own expense, it does violate terms of service, and they may terminate your account. But I do need to clarify, I did not hack LinkedIn. I just simply was avoiding their layers of protection that they put to keep me from scraping data off of their site. And we say layers of protection in parentheses there. So there's certain obstacles that LinkedIn puts in place. So if you've used LinkedIn before, they have something called a third-degree redaction. So if you aren't connected to somebody within 3 degrees, then you cannot see their full profile. You can see their name and maybe the last initial or the first initial of their last name. So in order to see that information, you would have to be able to do a full search, which I'll show here in a little bit. Do a full name search of somebody, and then you'll be able to see their profile for a temporary time period. They also have traffic restrictions, so they're going to monitor how much traffic you're sending to their server. And if you send too much that they realize you're probably scraping, they're going to terminate your session. And that's this next one. So they're going to take your session and terminate your login. So if you're using any kind of script, as soon as it gets its session terminated, it's just going to die, and it won't be able to get any more data. And then the last thing they will end up doing is account lockout. So they will lock your account and not let you kind of go further with that process. And so I want to talk to you guys about how we go about evading these. And so I need your help here to tell me when you can see my screen. Still nothing? Oh, there's something. Okay. All right, let's go to LinkedIn and play around. So, all right. So if we go here and I search for Hewlett-Packard, we're going to find a whole bunch of people that work for HP. And hey, whoa, I'm right at the top, probably because that's me. So there's all these people who work for HP. And if we go into their profile, we see a whole bunch of information about them. Now, what if I do somebody who I'm probably not connected to, at least directly? So I don't even get names for these people. Oh, those are jobs. That's why. Oops. Sorry if you work at Cisco. I'm not going to do anything mean. So if we look into this information, so we have his profile. We could see a whole bunch of information. Now, one thing they don't do with LinkedIn is you don't ever get to see, okay, well, who's connected to his network? You know, who are his friends in LinkedIn? So who is, I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I'll mess it up. So who is he connected to? That's one thing you're never really able to find out. Well, there's one thing that we're going to go into a little bit more, is this awesome feature they added called skills. So you can see who has endorsed these people for their certain skills. And you could, you know, view all 100+ people who have endorsed him for solution sellings. Well, all these people have to be within his network to endorse him. So by extrapolating this data, we could figure out who he's connected to, who's in his network. And we could start building this profile of who he's connected to and use that for business intelligence. Now, if we go up here at the top, we will look at this URL that they gave us. And you'll see it says off type, out of network. So we are out of network here. And they gave me this this little auth token, 4-character auth token, that is letting me view his profile. Now, if I remove that, it's going to still show me some of his profile. Oops. This one is still giving that to me. Let me go somewhere. See if I do this. And if I take that auth token off, it will lock down his account. So now we only see his name, and I no longer get all of his profile information. So that's how they're allowing you to view people's information that is outside of your network. So basically, we have to figure out how to bypass that. And they have a great feature that if you do a full name search, so if we go to their advanced search, and if we search for their full name, or a company and their title, a detailed search, they're going to give us that auth token. So that's our challenge. We need to get that auth token if we're going to try to scrape the data from people's sites. And so that's what I want to show in our demo here. I'm going to go ahead and show you the tool. The other lockouts that they're going to have, they're going to terminate your session. So if I start sending a lot of traffic, they're going to terminate it. So how we got about that is if they terminate my session, the script detects that and automatically logs back in. We have throttling set up. So if we do get, we could set our traffic not to be too fast to avoid that type of lockout. Here we are. Okay. So this is the code that we have. And now this is something that I've released on GitHub for research if anybody wanted to explore this further. But we have two different tools here. We have our LinkedIn, what we call gatherer. So this is going to gather a whole bunch of information on our target. So this is where I get to ask anybody if they want to volunteer their company. And if they don't, I will just choose somebody at random. So does anybody have a company or a name that we should search? I'm not doing anything malicious here. We're just kind of looking for information. Chevron. Chevron. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to LinkedIn. I'll bring it over to your side. And we will search for Chevron. Do we want to look for a certain type of employee? Sales? Let's do sales just to see. All right, so here's our search. What I'm going to do is take this URL. I did an advanced search, and this doesn't have the auth token on it. I just need an advanced search so that it's going to issue me these tokens. So if we go back to our script here, we have our URL, and I'm just going to tell it who the company was again, and an output. And it is going to go ahead and run for us. And it got us a new session ID. It found 10 people from page 1, 11 people. OK, so now, and that is normal for that to be there. So we have a list, a very short list. A very short list of some people. But what we're going to do then is we pass anything that we got from our gatherer into our next script, which is called our profiler. So I will go ahead and launch our profiler, which will ask for an input. And I'll do this. And first I'll do Chevron, even though it was small. Can everybody see this? OK. So right now, it got our auth token. We're looking for any connections. And now it found all these connections for her that are for different keywords. We have retail, recruiting, leadership. And so we took all of this information and scraped it and pulled it into our own file. Now, the reason we're able to do this, LinkedIn does this great thing. They try to make it hard for you to scrape data off their site. So when you hit it with just a script, so a Python script, it's not going to be built in HTML. It's not going to be parsed out into HTML. So instead, what they did is they threw these comments around a very large JSON object, which is then parsed into HTML as your browser loads. But thankfully, JSON is very, very easy to consume within Python. So I just took that JSON object, consumed it, and I had their full profile within an object. And so I could take that data and save whatever stuff I want. So with this example, I took their skills, and I wanted to find people who are connected to their profile. Now, I could take any data. I could take all of their data and dump it to my own CSV file to manipulate in any way. But for this example, we have her network information. So if we look at this quickly, we'll see this is all jumbled, but this is a list of all of her connections, what company they work for, and the URL to their LinkedIn profile. And so what I'm going to do is I have another company that I did an example on, and I'm going to show you guys how we could look at that data in a program called Maltego. Who's heard of Maltego? OK, we love Maltego. So I'm going to fire this up. So Maltego is a great visualization aid when you're doing reconnaissance. You could take large data sets, throw it into Maltego, do some graphical manipulation, and get some, be able to interpret what this data is really saying. So we're going to take this profile data that we got from these salespeople, throw it into Maltego, and see what we get. So this is still loading up. The other thing, and this was a funny story with LinkedIn, as I was doing this, I was using my account and a test account that I had, but test accounts are hard because you don't have all these established connections. So I was using my own account, and eventually they did lock me out. And I called them, and I sent them an email and said, hey, you know, my account is locked out, and I can't get to it. And they're like, oh, well, you were flagged for using a third-party, let me get this right, for using a third-party tool to scrape data from our website, you know, and that's a violation, and we could terminate your account. So I was like, oh, OK. And I emailed another lady, actually called them, and I said, you know what? I logged into my account at like a public library, and I think I left it logged in, and somebody might have used it to do like things they're not supposed to, and my account got locked out. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, let me reset your password. I'll send it to you. We'll unflag your account so you're good to go. So, you know, a little social engineering there to kind of get my account reactivated. So that was fun. So let's see. We'll take Maltego and we'll import some data. So I did this off a company that probably none of you guys are related to, so you don't hate me. But this is a company called Snugs, and they are a promotional company who makes promotional items. Snugs, like lanyards and lip balms and things like this. So I went ahead and took their profile of their sales data. And let's see, you know, we want to get some business logic out of here. We're going to do some business intel. We're going to look at all of their sales reps and see what kind of people they're connected to. Because if we could start making connections that a lot of their sales reps are connected to certain companies, maybe they do business with those companies, and maybe those are companies we want to target if we want to take business away from Snugs. So a little bit of some business intelligence. So I'm going to go ahead and map our first column, which is the person from Snugs, the salesperson. And then the second column is concatenated the name and the company of the person they're associated to. So I'll import this data. Maltego will take it and it will drop it in a graph, and then we'll start tweaking it to see if we could find anything useful out of it. Okay. So here's Maltego, and it's going to be a small screen, so we'll do the best we can. So there's different options in your layout. So this kind of gives us like an overview of how the data relates to itself. And really, it's hard to tell from here, you know, who's connected to who, but there are some relationships going on because these circles usually mean that there's all this data that's related to each other in different areas. So if I go to this entity list, it'll be easy for our demonstration purposes to see what we have. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this further. And there's this field called incoming. So this is saying how many incoming connections are coming to that person. So if I look at here, we see that Leland Felsenthal, he's the president of Public Identity, Inc. And he has 4 connections with the sales reps of Snugs. Okay, that's a pretty top candidate. Let's look into see if they're actually doing business with each other. We have, you know, Lacey, who works for Client Success Team, and she has, you know, 3. Maybe she's a recruiter, maybe not. But we have all these different supplier relations manager, different companies where we could start making these connections. So now we were able to take data from LinkedIn, figure out who these sales reps were connected to, and now make a targeted list of companies that maybe we want to reach out to and see if we could get information from. So that is an example of what we're doing. And so it was evading those processes of how they've kind of restricted us from taking data and being able to pull whatever we want off of their website and to do whatever we want with that for different kind of recon purposes. And so if I go back to my presentation, which was not very friendly. Bear with me here. Okay, so I have all this code posted on LinkedIn, and this is for anybody to go commit to pull, to play with, to kind of advance further. And now is time for any questions. Yeah? The what? Where they only let you, what, the traffic restrictions? Yeah. So the traffic restrictions is just through throttling. So thankfully, you could get all this data from very minimal requests. You have one request to get your auth token, your 4-key auth token, then one request to view their profile, and then one request for each category that they have skills in, because then you get 100 plus connections with those 3 requests. And so you could get a lot of data without sending too much traffic. So then if you start spacing those out, put 10 seconds between each request, 60 seconds between each person, it starts to look more like normal traffic. Any other?
Have you ever tampered with the out-of-network parameter?
The out-of-network parameter, I have way back when I was starting this research, but it really didn't seem to be making a big difference. Did you have any experience with that?
I use it all the time.
You do? Do you, anything you want? Yeah. Do you want to share something that we could?
So if you're not connected to someone and you're looking at their profile and out-of-network, you can't send a message to them. You can only send them a LinkedIn request. But if you want to be able to send a message to them directly, you can change it to in-network and then send a message. You'll get it.
That's awesome. So if anybody didn't hear, he was saying when the out-of-network parameter is set that you can't send email or direct a LinkedIn message to the person, but if you change it to in-network, then you'd be able to send that. Yeah, exactly. And that's basically what we're looking for. And so there's probably certain scenarios where that would suffice with the auth token. And then there's certain scenarios where you do need that auth token. Another great tip, too, is sometimes in order to get a full profile view, you need to have a first name and last name. Well, when LinkedIn truncates that last name to just an initial, you could do this you use this great website called Google, and you basically just search for Danny C. You could do the LinkedIn site tag, so you have LinkedIn as your site, and you say Danny C. Hewlett-Packard, and in the title it has my full last name, Danny Chrastil. So now I have the last name where I could do a full name search. Yeah. Any other questions?
You can import it to like Reconnaissance or Maltego module or something like that?
Yes. So I love Maltego, and they have different transforms that people could submit to publicly. So that's something I'm currently working on, is providing a transform into Maltego. So if you have a full name, you could just right-click and do a LinkedIn search and ask you for the company and get data. Exactly, yeah. This isn't functionality LinkedIn can really remove. And they've gone through different iterations of trying to protect their data from being scraped. And they've come up with these few mechanisms. And they seem to be working pretty well. But as hackers and security researchers, we try to find ways around it. And that's not just with LinkedIn. There's a whole bunch of open source resources out there that will only give you limited data, and they want you to use their API. And there's different things you could do to kind of circumvent those protections. And you got to find a fine line of when to do that and when not to, and why you would want to do that. But it is possible, and it's not functionality they could easily remove. Yeah.
Is there any difference between the website and the mobile API? How much data you can pull back between those?
So the mobile API, you can pull a lot of information, but you have to have a developer account. So you have to have an account to use the API. And then everything is kind of restricted to your permissions. And so if you don't have a pro account, you're not going to be able to view certain data. Or if you don't have a pro account, you're not going to be able to query a certain amount of data. They'll cut you off. So they have more controls within their API than they do their website. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So how much do your targets see when you're doing recon?
Mm-hmm.
Who's looking at your profile?
Mm-hmm.
Do you show up on the radar?
You do, and so that's why you want to be, aware of who you're viewing, and if you're willing to make a false identity account to do your testing, that helps. Or ask your buddy for their account login, which I did for a little while. Can I use your LinkedIn account just for research? And sure, and then his account was locked out. But he could just call in and have him reset it. It's fine. Anything else? Yeah?
So, one of the things you can do with Recon via LinkedIn is learn a lot about the tech stack at the target company, right?
Yeah.
Google, Linux admin,
Yeah.
here's every piece of software this guy's ever installed.
Exactly, and that's a very valid point. It's another thing that I've used in the past too. Is so let's see what kind of information a certain company is using. So if you look at their tech team, what kind of experience and background do their tech team have? Are they Microsoft certified professionals? Are they Cisco certified? Okay, we can kind of get an idea of what they're using. Or you look at their past work experience, because people say so much just to make their profile look good. Like I was in charge of managing the database system, which was so-and-so, and I did this and this using this technology. And they release a lot of information that could give you insights to the company.
Other than simply not having an account, do you have any advice for us to make sure we aren't being used in order for someone else?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, LinkedIn is a tool that we use for a certain purpose. We're trying to put ourselves out there. It's our online resume. But for the protection of the employees, the companies that you're working for, your employers, you don't want to release information that is sensitive to them. You don't want to release information that is giving information away that isn't necessary. So don't be too detailed about what you're putting into LinkedIn, because it's all public. Yeah?
Looks like most of this relies on those endorsements. Couldn't they just, that doesn't seem like a critical functionality of it. You could just say out of network, 13 people endorsed you for this.
Yeah.
And that would eliminate the ability to see everything in their network, yes?
Yeah, it would, but they get a little bit more, it has more bells and whistles to show pictures and names of people who have endorsed you. You could see, Jason Haddix is endorsed by these CEOs of these companies, and that means something. So that's why they have it, and they're trying to use that as an advantage, a nice feature of their website.
Would you be able to control, policy-wise, say, if you work for HP, would say no endorsements for your LinkedIn account? Does that help?
That would be great, to be able to turn that feature off. If you want to say, with different social network websites, where you could say, only my friends can see this, or only people I'm directly connected to can see my endorsements.
That means everybody has to do it. The company doesn't control all
No.
their employees.
No.
So
This is a threat. It is a threat to companies that they don't have a lot of control over, because they can't force anybody to change their LinkedIn accounts. That's a personal property. They can't. Well,
How much do you like working?
yeah, if they want to, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I guess it has to be part of the company.
Yeah.
What they could hold
And
LinkedIn.
and you would have to enforce that, but then that's also what's the work quality of working for this company. Maybe I don't want to work for them if they're going to force me to update my LinkedIn profile. So.
You've done any automation on Facebook or anything else, and stuff like that?
No, I haven't done anything there yet. But
get it all from Salesforce.
yeah, from Salesforce. Anybody else?
So he was giving an example. What else do you do with that data?
So
You are not with Recon. Do you phishing emails?
you can, yeah, so
All that is in the lead, or
it's very useful in social engineering practices, so you can get a lot of information. And it could be used for anything. For the business intelligence, if you're trying to analyze your competitors, it really is a wide range of data. Even if you just have a specific person that you're hiring and you want to get more information about them. There's a lot of things you could do with LinkedIn. So.
So it's kind of similar to what skills people put about what they've done or their work history, just as valuable as job posting. So not only where is their technology today, but where are they researching in the future side.
Right.
And it's not only on the IT side about the technology stack, it's also on the business side. That could be a lot of indication of their intellectual property and future projects that they're working on. They're actually quite proprietary because they have to hire people with some of those skills. So
Exactly.
way too much information about what they need. Right?
Yeah, so, and if people didn't hear it, it's when companies are doing job postings for a specific role or for a different or specific technology, it's giving away information of maybe projects that they're working on or certain information that isn't public yet. So, yeah.
Do you think they're going to find a way to mitigate this?
I'm sure they seem to change kind of frequently with how they try to mitigate this traffic and how they try to keep people from scraping data. So I'm sure it'll change. And it is also something I intend to share with them as well, so that they do know that this is possible and that they could make any changes that if they wish to or not. All right. All right, well, thank you guys.